What kind of changes do you notice in your body in terms of, obviously you're dropping weight, how do you feel strength-wise and endurance-wise and that kind of thing?
I feel better. My cardio feels better. I feel like I can go harder, longer than I was before. You know, it didn't take me as long to get in shape in the training camp because I'm lighter. Like normally it would take me a little more time to get going, whereas this time it's going kind of fast.
But you're not noticing any difference in terms of your power, your ability to take people down?
No, I feel fast, and I actually feel more explosive. My takedowns are more explosive and a little more dynamic, and I'm able to do things that I wasn't able to do when I was heavier. You know, I'm faster. It feels good. Yeah.
Now, obviously, we know Cain's your #1 training partner, and you can't work with him that much right now. So, what kind of adjustments have you had to make, and how hard has that been for you? Because you and Cain have been together training for so long.
Yeah, it's been tough. You know, not having him in the gym, but you know what? He actually comes still to watch my sparring, and you know, give advice whenever I'm training. But I've got some great partners, man. You know, the camp was going to have to change a little bit anyway because of who I'm fighting. Cain doesn't really present the Rashad Evans type of look. So I've got a guy named Davin Clark who's he's like a 185-pounder, but he's about Rashad's size, a little taller. Very fast, very good boxer with decent wrestling. Mike Kyle is another very good boxer. The wrestling will take care of itself for the most part, but I need to focus on the hands and everything else that Rashad's going to throw at me.
Besides cutting weight, what's been the most difficult part of dropping down to 205?
Just, you know, the most difficult part has just been the dieting. You know, having to actually eat healthy food. Like, it doesn't taste very good. Stuff doesn't taste very good, you know. I would much rather be eating jerk chicken and stuff like that.
Have you done a test cut yet?
No, I won't. I won't do a test cut. I've got these marks that I want to hit, and I'm hitting them. You know, I know that at this week I want to be 225. I'm going to hit 225. Next week I want to touch 220. I'm going to touch 220. And then I'm going to touch 215 the following week and just kind of keep hitting these marks. And 215 will be the lowest I'll go before I actually get down to 205.
What do you lose going down the light heavyweight?
I think I lose the speed advantage that I had at heavyweight more than anything. I think the guy's going to be faster. I'm not going to be any taller. The guys are still going to be taller than I am. They're still going to be bigger. I'm just not going to be as fast as the guys that I was fighting before. But I gained some things too. You know, I gained more cardio, the ability to go harder. And I think that I couldn't really fight the way I wanted to at heavyweight because the size was so different. Whereas if you watch Cain fight, he can just get in their face as long as he wants. I think I'll be able to do that against 205-pound guys.
Do you feel that there's a pressure on you as a person with a wrestling base to have to finish a fight on your feet? You know, with all the pressure from
Well, I have. You know, I've finished fights on my feet. I'm just fighting better guys now. You know, it's more difficult, you know. I don't think I need to finish a fight on the feet. I just think I need to fight the way that I can. You know, if I fight the way that I can fight, it's not easy to make the guys that I fought look like the fights aren't competitive. That's a very, very difficult thing to do. And that's what I've done so far. You know, I've made really hard fights look non-competitive, and that's not easy to do.
I heard someone tweet out that you said that Rashad is a tougher fight for you than Jon Jones. Why is that? And kind of.
Well, I just think that because I've trained with Rashad before, you know, he's felt me before. He's got a different set of skills than Jones, obviously. I think Rashad's actually a little more difficult to take down for me than it would be for a guy with longer limbs. I don't mind wrestling a guy with long limbs. I think it works to my advantage because I can get to their legs. Rashad doesn't kick as much. Kicking actually feeds your opponent the leg. Jon kicks more, so that's easier to grab takedowns. And, you know, Rashad is just, he's a more dynamic type of fighter. Like in terms of one-punch knockout power, he has more than Jones does. Explosiveness, he's a little faster in that sense. Whereas Jon's more of a, he's great, but he works at his pace. He fights at his pace. You know, he doesn't really, I mean, I don't know if he's ever put anybody out on his feet. You know, it's like submissions and he gets on top and he kind of pounds guys out. Well, that's one tool that actually kind of goes out the window against me because he can't score a takedown. So.
What do you think about when Rashad, or like when we fought against Low Nog, he just said my heart's not in it. Like, do you believe that as a fighter?
I think whenever you lose a fight, you don't, like, you know, I don't think you understand, like, what's happening. You don't know why you lost the fight, so it's like you're looking for reasons. Like, you don't necessarily know, so it's like, well, maybe the only way to explain this, because Rashad had only lost 2 times at the time. He had won 22-2 or something, and he was like, something happened that had never happened to him before. He went in the cage and he was lethargic. He was slow. He wasn't fast. He couldn't get off. He couldn't do. His body wouldn't respond. So he's like, well, I must not want to be doing this anymore. But you don't necessarily know if that's the truth. You know, what really changed between that fight and Dan Henderson, I don't know. I didn't spend time with Rashad in that way. But if he would have lost to Dan, maybe he would have said, well, I'm kind of not into this anymore. You know, it's just really hard to understand when something new happens that you just can't explain. Rashad never had those nights. He never had those nights where he just didn't do what he wanted to do. And that was one of those times where it was so new. I think he was kind of looking for a reason as to why.
How do you see the fight playing out between you and Rashad?
Tough fight, very difficult fight for me. He's you know, Rashad's a guy that I respect a ton. I really did try and base my career off what he did, not only in the cage but outside of the cage in terms of TV stuff, appearance stuff, everything. I tried to base my career off the most successful guy I had saw, and it was Evans. And so it'll be a difficult fight. You know, he's a future Hall of Famer, but listen, when it boils down to it, I've got a goal that I want to accomplish, and this is just another obstacle in the way of me getting to where I need to be.
Is it hard to fight a friend or someone that you like?
I mean, it'll be tough. You know, I really do care about the guy, but I know that in that day, on February 22nd, Rashad Evans is going to try to beat me, and he's going to try to take away everything I've worked for 4 years now, and I can't allow that to happen. So it doesn't matter how difficult it is. When they close that door, I got to try to hurt him.
Now, you know, we know that Cain is so good. He's your training partner, and at heavyweight, a lot of people think he's going to be the champ for a long time. I think Jon Jones is a more beatable champ than Cain, and did that have anything to do with, you know, switching weight classes and finding an opportunity to get a belt?
You know, a lot of the thing that people don't really understand is that when I started fighting MMA, people immediately said I should fight at 205. I'm small, I'm a short guy, but I didn't want to take on that extra aspect of training, whereas I was trying to get skills. I needed to get better. Well, I always had an idea that I was going to fight this weight at some point. I just didn't know when. So my friendship with Cain played a part in me going to 205, but that was also about me being healthier, living healthier, trying to fight at a weight that's more for me. You know, I need to be fighting down at a weight where I'm more the same size as the guy. So to the question, do I think Cain's a more dominant champion? I think Cain's will be a champion for a long time until he's ready to be done. So if that means he's the more dominant champion than Jones, then I guess it is. It's kind of hard to call anybody a more dominant champion than Jones because of what he's done. I mean, he stopped just about every guy that's been in the cage with him, you know. So it's hard to call somebody more dominant champion than him. But Cain could be.
But speaking of which, though, well, I was going to say Rashad's the one who did go the distance with Jon.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that show you?
Rashad did, and also Gustafsson. Yeah. You know, so it shows that, you know, if you fight the right way, you know, you can go the distance with him. And if, you know, Rashad kind of set the foundation and Gustafsson took it to the next level. Now, who's the guy that's going to take it to the next level to where he finally loses the fight? It's going to be difficult. He got through that fight with Gustafsson. He got through that fight. Most people wouldn't have got through that fight when they've never dealt with adversity before. So that says something about him, but I know that he left something in that cage on that night too.
What do you think, him not taking the rematch with Alex? Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts?
I mean, you know what, man? I think it's good of the UFC to allow these champions to make some of these decisions because they've earned that right. You know, he's defended that belt, what, 5 or 6 times now? And he's earned that right, that if he doesn't, you know, if he could not have stopped that rematch on his own. You know, people need to really understand that he could not have stopped that rematch. He probably voiced his opinion, and they decided that they were going to allow him to do that. Nobody can just say, well, I don't want to take this fight. It's not happening. It doesn't work that way. So Jon probably said, well, you know what? I'll fight Glover, and then, you know, maybe the Gustafsson fight can be next. And they said probably immediately, Dana and them probably go, no, you're fighting him. And they probably sat back and thought about it and goes, you know what? He's a long-reigning champion. We'll work with him. So.
Now, you mentioned that Jimmy Manawa had called you to train together. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, just reached out. He reached out to my management, and they asked if we'd want to bring him in. I don't think it's a problem because it can really only help if he does beat Gustafsson. So that's something we're discussing right now internally. Some of my coaches are against it. They think that he's just too close to the top. If he was a guy that was way down at around 20, then it would be okay. But I guess he's got to be right around the top 10 at some, So that's an issue because we may end up having to fight soon. And some people believe that he gains a little bit more in a situation because I can always find a good striker. You don't really get to wrestle with somebody like me and the rest of the guys in the gym every day. So, it's a balancing act. But it could help us. But, I mean, God, how awful would that be if I won the belt and I had to fight Jimmy first? I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Freaking Manawa.
Rashad said something about not wanting to text him or something. What do you make of that?
That's just him. Rashad being Rashad. I mean, I don't even know what the hell he's talking about, to be honest with you. You know what, though? Honestly, we haven't spoken much in the last couple of weeks, and I think that's the right thing to do. You gotta change your mindset. Him and Chael were just too friendly going into that fight. I love the guy. I think he's great, but distance is not a problem for me right now. We can talk after the fight, and that'll be cool with me. Because I know I got to go in there and fight him, and I think it's best that way.
We've never seen anybody out-grapple him in the octagon ever. What kind of advantage does that give you knowing and having the confidence that you are the better wrestler, better grappler?
I mean, I don't know if I can out-grapple him. That's not a foregone conclusion. I think I can out-wrestle him, but I don't know if I can out-grapple him. So I don't know. It's not fair to answer that question because I don't know if I can out-grapple him. Ask me on Sunday, the 23rd, or ask me at the post-fight press conference how I felt to out-grapple Rashad Evans, and if I did, I'll tell you.
We're hearing obviously a lot of the Olympic theme music these days. Do you get goosebumps when you hear that? Anything at home, you start getting a little tweaky when you see those commercials?
I love the Olympics, man. Like it's my DVR was full of Olympic coverage in the summer, so I love the Olympics. But I'm just kind of preparing for the fight. I like that this promotion and this fight card is 3 Olympians on the fight card. That's big for me. 3 Olympians, 3 undefeated Olympians, 3 American Olympians. So it's a big deal for me in that sense. And I'm gonna watch the Olympics because I love the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, I always get fired up when it comes to that stuff.
How far is MMA from becoming an Olympic sport, do you think?
I don't think it'll happen, man. I just don't think it'll happen. They're trying now to take the headgear away from boxing. Could you imagine doing MMA in the Olympics without a headgear? With 4-ounce gloves, people getting cut. I just think it'll be a very, very difficult thing to pull off if they could do it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I don't even think it's fair that they're taking the headgear off these kids in boxing. It's not fair. Those kids aren't pros. They're not getting paid. They shouldn't take those headgears off. All right?
Judo people always say that wrestling
beats
trumps
judo.
Thoughts on that for the ladies' fight?
I really do think it's going to be a tough fight because, like I said, Sarah's wrestling is way above. But we're not talking about just a regular judo player. We're talking about a medalist, a 2-time Olympian. So, and a girl that has more confidence than anybody in a long time. So, not only is it going to be difficult for Sarah because of those reasons, but because of her confidence. Ronda's ultra tough. And if her judo doesn't work, I'm pretty sure she's more than willing to rely on just punching. So I think it'll be a tough fight, though. It's much closer than some people think.
What do you think about Ronda being on the pound-for-pound list?
I think she belongs there. She's defended her title twice now and hasn't lost. I mean, she hasn't lost a round in any competition. She's a champion of the UFC, and I think she's going to go further up the pound-for-pound list after she fights Sarah if she wins, because then she beat a real competitor. I'm not saying these other girls aren't. I'm just saying that Sarah's an elite-level competitor, and I think we're going to see that on February 22nd. We fight, or the 20th?
22nd. You fight on the 21st. The girls fight on the 22nd.
Right, all right, fight before? Okay.
Where do you think that would put Rousey if she was victorious over McMahon on the pound-for-pound list, in your opinion?
Where is she at now? 10?
10.
Who's in front of her? 9'8". Who's 9'8"? Tell me who's 9'8".
Morale, I believe, is ahead of her.
See, the only problem is, like, it's very difficult because these guys, they rightfully deserve these places. I mean, Morale's going to fight Uriah Faber. If he wins, like, how does he get jumped? So I think some things would have to happen in terms of him and Morale may need to lose to Uriah for her to jump him. Those guys deserve where they are. And that's the problem with pound-for-pound lists. Like, how do you prove it? You know, it's like, how do you prove it? You know, Ronda could be the best fighter in the world pound-for-pound, but there's just no way to prove it. So it's all subjective, and you take it for what it is. But you know, the question is when you think pound for pound, what it's supposed to mean is if Anderson Silva fought, this is why he was considered the best for so long. At 185, would Anderson Silva's skill translate to 135? And would it translate to 145? And would it translate to heavyweight? And it did. That's why he was number one for pound. Could Jon Jones, as a 135-pounder, take people down like he does? Yes, that's why he's number one pound for pound. So you have to look at it in those terms. And when you look at it in those terms, you base it off of your person's skill level. And once you do that, then you get a true idea of what a pound for pound. Floyd Mayweather is the pound for pound best fighter in the world because he could do that all the way up through heavyweight. And I think that's where we it gets lost on us because we don't look at it in those terms the way that it's supposed to be.
You expect to be on that list with this win or more wins at light heavyweight?
I can't.
What you've already done at heavyweight.
Those guys are champions, man. You don't get on a list like that other than champ. You know, if you're not a champion, I'd have to probably be a champion at some point first.
Is it your goal to have maybe 2 belts as well? You know, obviously depending on what's going on with Cain, but to grab this belt at 205 and then. Would you look to?
I just want one belt, bro. If I can get one, I'll be good. I'm not greedy, man. Let me have one. I just want one belt. Let me have one, man.
Give him a shot first, right?
Yeah, give me a belt. Just a title. I mean, come on. Let me win this fight and then just give me a title shot. Let's see how that works out. What if I lose? Oh, my God.